Welcome to Watch-Worthy Shows. 2026 is an extraordinary year for cinema, and this time we did the work of reviewing everything worth watching, from the most modest platform releases to the most anticipated blockbusters of the season. 15 films across completely different genres, some already available, others still on the way, but all with a solid reason to be on your list. From horror thrillers to historical epics, through musical biopics and the highest level science fiction. But before we get started, it would mean a lot if you took a moment to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for your kind support. Number 15, Ready or Not 2, Here I Come. Grace survived the longest night of her life in the first film. She managed to escape the Ladoma family and their deadly game of hide and seek. Now she returns, and this time she arrives not as a victim, but as someone who already knows how this game works. The sequel builds on that twist and takes it into darker, more violent territory, with Samara Weaving and Kathryn Newton as leads. The first Ready or Not was a massive surprise in 2019, a horror comedy with real teeth and an ending that made it a genre favorite. This sequel arrives with the same directing team, Radio Silence, and the promise that the irreverent and brutal tone of the original stays intact. Whether it manages to surpass the impact of the first film remains to be seen, but the source material and cast are reason enough to keep it on the radar. Number 14, Moana. The daughter of her island chief hears the ocean calling her from a young age, but her people have gone generations without sailing beyond the reef. When an ancient curse begins consuming the nature of her home, Moana defies her family rules and sets sail to find Maui, the demigod who stole the heart of goddess Te Fiti, and restore the balance of the world. The 2016 animated version was a massive Disney hit, and its 2024 animated sequel grossed over $1 billion. Now comes the live-action adaptation, with Catherine Lagaya in the lead and Dwayne Johnson reprising as Maui. Direction is by Thomas Kail, known for Hamilton on Broadway. The question is whether this version can capture the magic of the original or land in the territory of adaptations that add nothing new. Disney's recent live-action track record is uneven, but the franchise carries enough weight to generate real anticipation. Number 13, Thrash. A Category 5 hurricane tears through a coastal town. The water rises, buildings collapse, streets disappear under the surge. And in the middle of that chaos, something far worse emerges from the water, hungry sharks dragged inland by the storm. The residents who did not manage to evacuate in time now have to survive two disasters at once, with no power, no communication, and no way of knowing where the next attack is coming from. Tommy Wirkola, the Norwegian director behind Dead Snow and Violent Night, helms this proposition that combines the best of disaster cinema with the most classic shark thriller. Phoebe Dynevor from Bridgerton leads the cast alongside Whitney Peak and Jimon Hansu. The film nearly reached Sony cinemas and ended up landing on Netflix, which makes it the most accessible horror release of April. For genre fans looking for adrenaline without complications, this is exactly what they need. Number 12, Pretty Lethal. 5 ballet dancers travel to a major competition when their bus breaks down in the middle of nowhere. The only option is to take shelter at a remote roadside inn run by Devora Casimir, a former ballet prodigy played by Uma Thurman. At first, the welcome seems fine. Very quickly, it becomes clear they are trapped in something they cannot easily get out of. When the situation turns deadly, the 5 dancers have to stop competing with each other and use the only thing they have: years of brutal physical training turned into a survival tool. SXSW 2026 premiere with positive reviews. Maddie Ziegler, Lana Condor, Iris Apatow, Avantika, and Millicent Simmons make up the dancer cast, with Uma Thurman as the main threat. The proposition mixes pure choreography action with dark horror and black humor that works better than the premise suggests. It is exactly the kind of film that surprises you because you do not expect it to be this entertaining. Number 11, Over Your Dead Body. A couple in crisis decides to go to a remote cabin to try to save their relationship. What neither of them reveals is that each arrived at the trip with a secret plan to murder the other before it is over. What starts as awkward marital tension becomes a battle of traps, wit, and violence that escalates to the absurd in the most entertaining way possible. English language remake of the 2021 Norwegian film The Trip. Known for being savagely funny, Jason Segel and Samara Weaving star in this version, directed by Jorma Taccone, the same director behind Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping, and MacGruber. The film premiered at SXSW, and reviews especially highlight Timothy Olyphant in a supporting role that steals every scene. For anyone looking for dark comedy with real action and humor that is not afraid of extremes, this is the most direct bet of the month. Number 10. Masters of the Universe. Prince Adam is 10 years old when he is separated from his magical sword and ends up on Earth, far from his home planet Eternia. Years pass. The boy grows up without remembering who he really is, until the past finds him anyway. When forces of evil threaten to destroy both worlds, Adam has to become what he was always destined to be. He, man, the most powerful man in the universe. Nicholas Galitzine stars in this new adaptation that aims to do for He-Man what the Marvel Cinematic Universe did for its heroes. The last film featuring the character was in 1987, so there is almost 40 years of accumulated expectation. Alison Brie and Camila Mendes round out the main cast. Direction is by Travis Knight, responsible for Bumblebee, the best entry in the Transformers franchise. The premise is ambitious, and the material has potential. If the execution is up to par, it could be the surprise of the summer. Number 9. The Super Mario Galaxy Movie. Mario and his friends travel to space in this new animated adventure inspired by Nintendo Wii game Super Mario Galaxy. The story takes the characters to explore planets, galaxies, and completely new worlds, maintaining the spirit of adventure and humor that turned the previous film into a global phenomenon. Chris Pratt, Anya Taylor-Joy, Charlie Day, Jack Black, and the rest of the original cast return for this second chapter. The 2023 first film grossed over $1.3 billion and became one of the most successful video game adaptations in cinema history. This sequel arrives with the same creative team and a visual proposition that promises to expand the universe in every possible direction. For families and Nintendo fans of all ages, this is the safest premiere of the year. The question is not whether it will work, but whether it manages to surpass the original. Number 8. Michael. The story of the man who became the king of pop, from his early years as part of the Jackson 5 to the highest point of his solo career in the 80s. The film does not attempt to be a softened portrait. Producer Graham King made clear that the intention is to humanize without sanitizing, which means the more complicated aspects of Michael Jackson's life will be present in the narrative. Jafar Jackson, Michael, actual nephew, makes his film debut playing his uncle in what could be the most demanding role of any actor in 2026. Antoine Fuqua, the Training Day director, directs with John Logan, the screenwriter of Gladiator and Skyfall, signing the script. The trailer was the most viewed in Lionsgate history in the first 24 hours. There is risk that the weight of controversy surrounds the character, but there is also an enormous probability that Jafar delivers a performance that transcends all that discussion. Number 7. Toy Story 5. Woody, Buzz, Jessie, and the rest of Bonnie toys face a new threat. Gadgets and electronic devices are replacing traditional toys in children's lives. What was once a room full of imagination and adventure now competes with screens, and the toys have to discover whether they still have a place in a world that changes faster than they can keep up with. Pixar returns to its most beloved franchise with Andrew Stanton, the director of Wall-E and Finding Nemo, leading the project. Tom Hanks and Tim Allen return as the voices of Woody and Buzz. Many thought Toy Story 3 was the perfect ending, and Toy Story 4 divided opinions. This fifth installment arrives with a premise that touches something genuinely current, the tension between analog and digital childhood. If Pixar delivers emotionally what it has done at its best moments, this could be the most powerful return the franchise has ever made. Number 6. The Devil Wears Prada 2. Almost 20 years later, Miranda Priestly is still at the helm of Runway, but the world she always ruled is no longer the same. The print magazine industry is collapsing under the pressure of digital media, and the power Miranda built over decades starts crumbling from within. Andy Sachs returns to her former boss orbit under circumstances neither of them expected, and Emily Charlton, now a high-level executive at a luxury group, becomes a key tension factor. Meryl Streep, Anne Hathaway, Emily Blunt, and Stanley Tucci reprise their original roles, with David Frankel returning as director and Aline Brosh McKenna writing the screenplay, the same team as the first film. The trailer accumulated 181 million views in its first 24 hours, the highest figure in history for a comedy. Almost 2 decades of accumulated expectation, a top-tier cast, and a story that knows exactly what it wants to say about power and time. The most anticipated comeback of the year in the genre. Number 5. Pressure. 72 hours before D-Day. The fate of the Second World War hangs on a single weather forecast. Meteorologist James Stagg, captain of the Royal British Air Force, has to convince General Dwight Eisenhower that delaying the Normandy landings by 1 day could be the difference between victory and disaster. Eisenhower has the final word, and the weather is not cooperating. Andrew Scott as Stagg and Brendan Fraser as Eisenhower star in this adaptation of David Haig's stage play, directed by Anthony Maris, the same director behind Hotel Mumbai. Focus Features positions it as a serious awards contender for year-end season. Damian Lewis, Kerry Condon, and Chris Messina round out the cast. The Proposition is a war room thriller that proves some of the most important decisions in history were not made on the battlefield, but in a closed room with maps, forecasts, and the pressure of knowing millions of lives depend on what is decided in the next few hours. Number 4. Disclosure Day. If you found out we were not alone in the universe, if someone proved it to you beyond any doubt, would that frighten you? That is the question that opens Disclosure Day, the new Steven Spielberg film. The story follows a group of people, including scientists and investigators, who are pulled to the center of a global crisis when evidence of extraterrestrial life becomes impossible to contain. There are inexplicable signals, phenomena that governments try to suppress, and a truth that can no longer be kept hidden. Spielberg returns to the genre he helped define decades ago with Close Encounters of the Third Kind and E.T. Emily Blunt leads the cast alongside Josh O'Connor, Colin Firth, and Coleman Domingo. The screenplay is by David Koepp, who previously worked with Spielberg on Jurassic Park and War of the Worlds. John Williams composes the score, his 30th collaboration with the director. This is the most anticipated collaboration of the summer, and one of the few films that can change the cultural conversation of the year. Number 3. Spider-Man: Brand New Day. After the most brutal emotional reset any Marvel Cinematic Universe character has ever experienced, Peter Parker starts from zero. Nobody remembers him. Not his friends, not his family, not his enemies. The sacrifice at the end of No Way Home erased him from the memory of everyone he knew. Brand New Day explores what it means to be Spider-Man when the hero has to build everything again from nothing, without a safety net and with the entire city as a stranger. Tom Holland returns to the suit in what promises to be the most personal and at the same time most ambitious chapter of his trilogy. The film connects directly to Avengers: Doomsday, making it a key piece of the new Marvel Universe map. Anticipation is enormous, driven by 5 years of waiting since the end of No Way Home. If Spider-Man achieves in this film what it promised at the end of the previous one, it could be the best chapter of the entire Tom Holland franchise. Number 2. The Odyssey. After the fall of Troy, Odysseus sets out on the journey home. What should be a trip of a few weeks becomes 10 years of impossible trials, legendary creatures, capricious gods, and temptations that threaten to make him forget who he is and who he loves. The Cyclops Polyphemus, the Sirens, Circe, Scylla, and Charybdis. Every obstacle seems specifically designed to destroy him, and yet Odysseus keeps sailing. Christopher Nolan directs his own version of Homer epic poem with a $250 million budget, and a cast that includes Matt Damon as Odysseus, Tom Holland, Anne Hathaway, Zendaya, and Charlize Theron. It is the first film shot entirely in IMAX format. After Oppenheimer, Nolan returns with maximum ambition. Although not yet released, it is already the most anticipated film of the year, according to most specialized media. If anyone can bring the oldest epic poem in Western literature to the big screen with the weight it deserves, it is him. Number 1. Project Hail Mary. Ryland Grace wakes up alone on a spacecraft, light years from Earth, with no memory of anything. Not his name, not his mission, not how he got there. As his memory returns in fragments, he begins to understand the magnitude of what he is facing. The sun is dying due to an alien substance. Earth is in the early stages of a new ice age, and he is the only human being capable of finding a solution. But maybe he will not have to do it alone. Project Hail Mary is already in theaters and holds a 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. Ryan Gosling stars in the adaptation of Andy Weir novel, the same author of The Martian, directed by Phil Lord and Christopher Miller, the creators of Spider-Man: Into the Spider-Verse. The film is, according to critics, the best argument of the year for cinema on the big screen. Emotional, intelligent, visually stunning, with a supporting character that steals absolutely everything. One of the best science fiction films in recent years, already available to watch. And that is a wrap on the top 15 best movies of 2026 that everyone is waiting for. A year that in every sense will be remembered for cinema, and we are barely in the first half. If you enjoyed this video, do not forget to leave a like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you do not miss our upcoming videos. Let us know in the comments which of these films you are most looking forward to and which one you have already watched. See you in the next one.